So we have the most beautiful lanes here at the side of Crondall Lane. This particular lane is signposted for Well and Long Sutton. Beautiful property in the distance there. And this lane makes its way up and joins the Pilgrim's Way from Winchester to Canterbury. And I should just take a short section that finishes short of Bentley. More beautiful views with the rapeseed in the distance, off in the direction of Odium. I just make my way across this field and drop down to a small forested area. And now we're entering the small wooded area. I posted on the WhatsApp group on Palm Sunday the fact that I got here at 10 o'clock and enjoyed my own forest church as I watched Jacqueline's service. Lots of potential here for a St. Peter's Tramps walk when we all are finally allowed to get together again. Some wonderful birdsong in the distance. I do wonder what social distancing is going to make of our social interaction when we all come together, because people I meet on walks tend to fall into two camps. They're only too pleased to smile and exchange pleasantries, or they look at you as though you're carrying the plague and question why you should be allowed out of the house as they turn their backs and dash into the undergrowth. Maybe that's my paranoia coming out, but I've certainly had a few experiences of that. I'm just approaching some beautiful cottages here. It's either East or West Green, I can't recall. What I do remember is on a more enthusiastic than well thought out morning, I left St. Peter's Church, skirted round the edge of Alice Holt Forest, which is just across the A31 there in the distance, and came up behind these cottages. So my walk home was a little longer than I anticipated on that particular day. So I'm coming back through the forest towards Farnham, and this is the forest I joined the Palm Sunday service whilst I was in here last Sunday. Very rewarding experience, driven, I have to say, by conversations with Naomi as she discovered something called the Forest Church. You're beginning to see the early bluebells now. Beautiful views there of the rapeseed fields heading out in the direction of Odium. A bit breathless, I'm still climbing a fairly steep slope, but I'm making my way back to the solar panel farm. This is the path making its way back into the Farnham area. Absolutely wonderful morning for walking. So at this crossroads I leave the Pilgrim's Way, heading down right towards Crondall Lane, down that particular lane there. But as I swing round and look to my left towards Crondall, we then see the county sign for Hampshire just against the lane here. So I'm back on the ridge that follows parallel to Crondall Lane, coming back into Farnham. Good view of my two groups of favourite trees and a few horses there wrapped up against the night cold, and indeed fly damage around their eyes during the day. Now the weather's a lot warmer. Good morning, here I am on Tuesday after Easter. Bitterly cold morning, frost still on the car windscreens as I left the house. It's 9 o'clock, but it's a beautifully clear sky as you can see. And I'm just making my way now parallel to Crondall Lane. And just around the next corner you should get a view of Crondall and indeed the church tower. Okay, you might not quite see the church, but in the foreground are the farm buildings associated with this, what I would describe as a factory farm. But at least it keeps the countryside open for us. As I swing across to the east, we're now looking towards Clare Park. In fact, one of my routes does take me across the back of Clare Park, and I will video that for you one day. Nice avenue, access to the farm from Crondall Lane, and then sweeping around towards the north we see in the distance the old people's home and the hospital on Crondall Lane. So I'm now an hour from home and I've turned around to the west of the village of Crondall, just giving you sweeping views of this open farmland as I turn to face the south and to head back to Farnham. Now looking back towards Crondall, there you should be able to see the church in the distance. And now I'm looking in the area of Crondall Lane. My favourite piece of footpath on this rather large farmland is what lies here between these hedges. And footpaths seem to be fairly random in that they don't go from town to town. They seem to go from small settlements, cottages, to the village and essentially the church. This one with its rather old hedge line could well have been a traditional carting route through to Crondall from well, I'm heading towards Longwell and Sutton actually. Beautiful expansive views, and now we can see the farmers' crops all beginning to burst with growth. So I'm just about to leave the farmers' fields, enter the lanes which then eventually will take me down to the Pilgrim's Way and then back through to Farnham. The only help we get, well no, it's a bit cynical of me, the farmer here puts no footpath signs, but when you're route finding it's a bit difficult to find the footpath if all you can see are no footpath signs. Never mind, I've managed it, and I have 3 or 4 different routes now which takes me to Crondall and beyond, and indeed I can loop round via Farnham Old Park as well to get back into Farnham. Here we are then, looking down on the hospital on Crondall Lane. Today I've come down a track on the far side of this video, through the farm, crossing Crondall Lane, and now on the north-east side of Crondall Lane, circling round towards Farnham. Beautiful farmland scenery. Here we are looking down onto Crondall, and 4 young sheep who found themselves on the wrong side of the fence. Looking at a large field of stubble on the Farnham side of Dora's Green Lane, and there in the distance you might just be able to see the farming machinery which is beginning to prepare this field for this year's crops. So I'm on the Pilgrim's Way here, which makes its way to the north side of Farnham before it drops down into Farnham, and in the distance there would be the A road from Farnham to Odium. And so in the distance we're looking right the way across Farnham, and you can see the railway sheds and Wrecclesham in the distance. Views to the north on the Pilgrim's Way, looking out towards Odium and the rapeseed fields coming into full bloom. And here we have the footpath. You can tell by the long shadows I like to do my walks early in the morning. Too busy later on, and I'm too tired in the evening. What you cannot do is smell the rapeseed, and I can, so I'm rather hoping my hay fever can stay in abeyance.